PEADAR is an exceptional musician, and he has an incredible musical ear. He picks up things just like that. And he's a wonderful singer, he's a fine instrumentalist. He's Irish, of course, traditionally, and you know, the Irish are a very, very musical people, and also very good at collaborating and crossing over and finding ways of engaging with different musical cultures. He has a beautiful voice and sings perfectly in tune, which is something that's very important for me, for my ears. They call me the tuning police when I produce albums. One day I went into the room where all the koras are stored, and he was sitting there with Yijia, and I think he was playing the kora and Yijia was singing along, singing her own thing, and then he started doing this Mongolian throat singing, and this was right at the beginning of term, and I thought, oh, this is amazing what you're doing. And I said that to them. I said, this is fantastic. This is a project you have to develop.
So inspired by so many different musical cultures, from video games, traditional styles. There was one composer in particular, Yoko Shimomura from Japan, who I completely adored. And so I wanted to come to London to learn about more music. Specifically, I came to SOAS to study world music, so that if I was to be a video game music composer, I could draw inspirations from different musical cultures to evoke different feelings. My parents got me a PlayStation 2 when I was very young, and I grew up playing those games. And the music from those games always really stood out to me, because video games are so, especially at a young age, they can mean a lot to you. Because they are stories. The same way books and films mean a lot to some people, video games did the same for me. And so those soundtracks really framed my childhood. As soon as I got a laptop and internet, I started just looking on YouTube at different musical cultures, and because I knew Ireland has its own traditional music. Most places must have their own traditional music as well. Like I was young and realized that young. I was very lucky, and so I started looking at different musics, such as Armenian music, Albanian music, and Chinese music as well, which really stood out to me. And I think at the age of 13, I purchased my first Chinese musical instrument, which was a xiao, which is a long bamboo flute. It was really hard to play, so I bought a different instrument instead. I bought the hulusi.
So this is the hulusi from southern China and the countries around there, so like Laos and Vietnam as well, it's often played there. So it's called the hulusi, which means hulu is gourd, which is this part of the instrument, and that si is like from seju, which is the silk and bamboo music, which is played throughout China. So traditionally this would be a gourd, and these would be bamboo pipes. I have a wooden one, just because I like the tone of it a lot more. And you play the melody on this pipe, and then this one has two drones that you can play as well. Give an example? Yeah? I'll just check the drones are in tune. Yeah.
So I came to university and I kind of got a bit homesick, and I investigated more ways that I could really connect with my culture. And one of them was through doing more traditional music. And over the last few years I've been playing a lot more traditional Irish music and learning traditional Irish songs as well that I grew up singing, and that I always heard my family and friends of the family singing. So I've revisited my childhood, and I'm trying to reframe those memories in a positive light rather than a negative. I used to do some R&B, and I still love to perform that as well. I always found it hard to settle on one style of music. But but coming to the stage of something just felt right. It was just a perfect blend of our sounds and our cultures. Cultural appropriation has always been something that Yijia and I are very aware of, especially studying in SOAS. It's a conversation that happens every day. Coming to SOAS with the amount of privilege that I do have and studying other cultures, when I was younger, I thought it was absolutely fine to do that. And I've realized that there's a certain amount of sensitivity that you have to have when approaching these cultures. Is this what we should be doing? Or how should we be doing it? Especially over lockdown, we've had a lot of time to reflect on everything that we're making. And I think the direction that we want to move in is more of a reflection of our own musical roots and our own musical traditions. So we're currently thinking of ways to incorporate Chinese traditional music and Irish traditional music together. We're both learning more about our own cultures and, in turn, each other's.
Cultural appropriation is definitely a very hot topic, and it's something that we need to be aware of, and that we need to, there are ethical issues around cultural appropriation, there are monetary issues. Are you making someone else's music, taking their musical style and then making money out of it, and therefore, in a way, taking money away from them? Those are the kinds of issues around cultural appropriation. But I think it's really important to remember that with music, we say the cliche, music is a universal language. It's not a universal language, but music crosses borders. Music doesn't have passports. And music has always been, and musicians have always been borrowing and learning from other musical traditions and taking the best.
The worry in our head that what we're doing could be damaging. On one side, we are helping bring an underrepresented music to a world stage, but the other side is, should we be the ones doing it? We're not from these cultures. So trying to frame our music and what we do has been quite difficult. And I know in recent years we've been trying to do a lot more specifically Chinese and Irish music fusion. When we started, we did music from Tuva and Tibet and Mongolia, and we loved it, and we still do.
We need to be careful and nuanced in the way that we think about cultural appropriation. There are some aspects of borrowing other people's music that is exploitative. It's to do with power relations, really, There have in the past been many cases of exploitation, of borrowing without crediting.
When Madonna and Paris is Burning popularized ballroom culture, it threw it into the mainstream culture, and mainstream culture changed it to make it fit society better. They changed the formats of balls and changed the music and changed the certain styles, and it became less of ballroom culture and more of a separate mainstream ballroom culture.
I think we need to be really careful and not go back to this idea that, in order to play Mozart, you have to be Austrian, or in order to to play Bach, you have to be German or to study Bach. You know, I mean, this is really a very primitive way of looking at the richness of music.
I'm talking about industry. Folk music, as far as I've always thought about it, is just the music that people play. It's what people do in their living rooms. It's what people whistle on their way to work. It's the stuff that's not. It's the stuff that's home. It's home music, and the contention between that and industry is part of the thing. Like the folk scene isn't struggling in any kind of a sense. It may not be cooperating or profiting monetarily in the bigger system at the minute, but it'll never die. It's what people do. People learn tunes play together. That's what it's all about. So I think the biggest challenge, as it is for any art or any art in the world now, is contending with capitalism. It's managing a life that is all of its values, or many of its values, are at odds with the way that we organise production and earning an income. There's a clash there that is not resolved easily.
And I think it was until I was much older that I realized that music was something that I enjoyed and that was therapeutic for me. I've always been a singer. For as long as I can remember, I've always been singing. Especially, my mom really influenced me a lot. She used to give me some singing advice and stuff. I would always sing for her in the car and she'd give me some critiques. I've been able to accept so many parts of myself and things that I was told growing up that were wrong and I should suppress. I've been able to accept a lot of them, but I still struggle with mental health. I still struggle with my body image, and that has led to a lot of pain and even still to this day, when I have a loving partner, I struggle with so much. I'm too focused on what other people think still. And although I do drag and clearly don't care what people think in that aspect, there are still a lot of aspects of my life that I definitely care what people think.
Nektypot, kuda shuria siatama, kohamo porneska ko, yeah,
And for me, I've always found the best way for me to get over any kind of personal struggles is to perform it. So this has helped me accept and understand my own sexuality and my gender identity, and realize that life is a performance.
Wait till it sounds
Cool. My young love said to me, my mother won't mind, and my father won't slight you for your lack of kind. And she stepped away from me, and this she did say, it will not be long, love, till
I shouldn't care what other people think. That shouldn't prevent me from doing something that I love. A lot of the music that I've written myself is very personal, and it talks about my own struggles with my mental health in the hopes that someone else might listen to it and feel like they're not alone. The music that I listened to at that point it often had the narratives of struggling with insecurity and family issues and personal issues, and I wanted to do the same. I think, especially being a queer person as well, I'm more in touch with my emotions because I was always told that as a man I could not be.
till the wedding day. She stepped away from me, and she moved through the fair. Silent only, I watched her moving.
Music is everything I know. I came to study music. I grew up around music. Every single day, I'm either listening to, creating music. Without it, I don't know if I would have come to have the identity that I have right now. It has helped me overcome so many tough moments in my life. It's helped me accept my queerness, my gender identity. It's helped me overcome the bullying that I faced when I was younger. You can take whatever you want from music, and I think that's exactly what I've done. and what I hope to do with my music as well.
Softly she came, that her feet made no din, and she laid her hands on me, and then she did say,
I think Yijia and I, in our music, display a certain amount of self-love, acceptance of ourselves, and acceptance of so many different aspects of life and different walks of life. Our music says that no matter where you're from, there are no boundaries on the earth. Music is something that goes through space and time. Music has no borders.
My recovery, my recovery, my recovery.